At Wells Fargo, it's our expertise in finding this kind of
each other in silence. And then Comey says later in the conversation, and then Comey says later in the conversation, the president returned I need to loyalty. Same subject. I replied, I need loyalty. I replied, that's Comey, you will always get honesty from me. He paused and then said, that's what I want, honest loyalty. I paused and then said, that's what you'll get from me. After a February 14th meeting, the president raised the issue of National Security Advisor Mike Flynn. A day earlier, Flynn had resigned from that position. And Comey writes, the president stating, I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He is a good guy. I hope you can let this go. Comey then stated he understood the president was requesting that they drop the investigation into Flynn, but not the entire Russia probe, Kat.
So is that the way that they get around it, essentially? I know people have different views. Some people are saying this totally vindicates Trump, and some people are saying, oh, see, he's in big trouble now. I don't know what to think.
Well, you know, the words are going to be really important here. When you read the prepared testimony, the language right there is that he requested him to let go of this. He didn't order him to. He didn't tell him it was mandatory. And it was simply not enough, based on this prepared testimony, for Comey to go to his boss, the Attorney General, or the Deputy Attorney General, and say, I think we have obstruction of justice here because there is a corrupt intent. So it will be very important tomorrow to listen to the way Director Comey, the fired FBI director, delivers the prepared testimony, the tone of his language, listen to the words that he chooses, the pauses that he inserts into the testimony, and I think most significantly, whether he will take questions that go beyond this, because legal experts have said to us that if he doesn't take questions on this particular topic beyond what he states in opening testimony, that means it's still of investigative interest to the special counsel, Robert Mueller.
Catherine, may I ask you this, Eric?
Sure.
So I read these 7 pages here. It doesn't seem like a smoking...
I knew you would.
Yeah. I have it right here. I'm looking for the smoking gun.
Good, I like that. That's
I honestly can't find it. But what I also can't find is where James Comey outlines his testimony, his sworn testimony in front of, I believe it was Congress, not Senate, but Congress, and he never mentioned some of these things. He never really explains why he didn't mention these meetings that he outlined so thoroughly in this June 8th missive.
Well, you know, you raised an interesting point, because the fired FBI director says in this statement that it was routine, really right out of the gate, for him to document his meetings and conversations with either the incoming president or President Trump. But this was simply not his habit with President Obama, in part because they didn't really have a lot of communication based on this prepared testimony, sort of a handful of occasions. They either met in person or spoke on the phone. And even just in the first 4 months or so that President Trump was in office, he had almost a dozen conversations or interactions with him.
Catherine, very quickly, this is Ebony.
Sure.
So we saw that this posting went up on the Senate Intel website around 2 p.m. this afternoon, almost a full day before this testimony was set to be heard. What do you make, if anything, of the timing? How far in advance we've all gotten to come through?
I'm so glad you asked that. It seems entirely weird to me. Like, I've never seen such high-profile testimony released so far in advance, and it also struck me that it was really released within an hour of this morning's hearing that was behind me concluding. So maybe we'll get a better explanation tomorrow. Maybe it was an effort for people to digest what was going to be in that testimony. But I can't think of another case. Usually you get the prepared testimony like 3 minutes or 5 minutes before the hearing, and then there's an embargo until the hearing begins. But that was simply not the case here.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, time to meet today's specialists. He is the youngest person to ever be elected to the New York State Legislature. He was a president of the New York City Council, and he's the former chairman of Democrats for Trump during the presidential campaign. But he specializes in hiking in Wyoming and Montana. Andrew Stein is here. And he's a radio talk show host for CEO Radio 1000 AM, the founder and CEO of the National Diversity Coalition, and he was an executive committee member of President Trump's transition team. But he specializes in theological discussion and debate. Pastor Daryl Scott is here. All right.
I honestly think I figured this whole mess out. It's a charade that's been playing out. Comey said this, Trump said this, Trump did this, Comey took notes on this. Trump, after reading 7 pages of Comey's testimony, we're going to hear it tomorrow, you realize that Trump is unorthodox. He's not a regular politician, and maybe a longtime career FBI director, intel guy, is used to dealing with politicians. He wasn't used to some of the conversations